Hello everyone, welcome back to Coin Bureau Clips. It is time for another Q&A with myself and Thor here. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, guys, how you doing? Yeah, that's the image. Good, man. Good, you?
Yeah.
What a crazy week, eh?
Yeah.
It is so true. Like a year in crypto years is like, 10, 15 years in normal years, right? 1 week in crypto is like 2 months in TradFi.
Yeah, I feel I've aged a lot. I mean, we're not even halfway through January, and already it feels like this year's been going on for a while.
Yeah, already so much to talk about.
Yeah, it's crazy. So obviously this we're talking at the end of the week when the spot Bitcoin ETFs were approved. So I get the sense that might figure somewhat in the questions that we're going to answer today. As usual, people have kindly sent in questions to Instagram. A few have been picked out for Nick and I to go through. So let's start. Nick, I'm going to ask you the first one.
Yeah, I'll start. Before I do, I've just got another question for you, man. What do you think of my new stickers? Because people say... people have said that my laptop lacks stickers compared to yours. And I thought that the most fitting stickers would be stickers dedicated to guys' alter egos. So we've got Cousin Dennis and Zoolander.
And Zoolander, yeah. I watched that Zoolander intro back a while ago. God, it was long.
God, it was amazing.
It was fun.
We need to bring one back, Hansel. I think I should come as Hansel. And you can be Zoolander, and we can do a crypto fashion show. Hansel.
I think that's what
that's what the viewers want. We should do a deals insert for that.
Yeah.
Next one.
Okay. Well, that's one problem sorted.
Cool. But no, let's get back to the actual questions. Okay.
Yeah.
So, first question is from Keith 1001, and he asks, "Will BTC pull back?"
Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it?
Yeah, it has a little bit, right?
It has a little bit. I want to I quickly want to check where we are because it sort of punched up to 48K, didn't it?
In anticipation of the day of the trading, it punched up, it got to 48K, and then everyone was like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen kind of all sorts of predictions for this, pullbacks to sort of 30K. Yeah. But I've also seen predictions the other way, and I think that 50K level is a very important sort of psychological barrier, isn't it? And I think if we got beyond 50K, then theoretically there could be, a big old pump from there. I mean, there's even been talk of possible all-time highs in the wake of this. I personally don't think that's likely. I think there's still, I think this demand still needs to be, I think this is going to be a sort of very gradual demand over the next few months. So, but the question is, will BTC pull back? And I think it can. I'm not sure whether it can pull back all the way to 30K. I think that's probably a little doom laden. But I think we could certainly pull back to to 40K or just below, because I think a lot of this ETF hype has been priced in. I think there's been a lot of attempts to front run BlackRock and Fidelity and all these other asset managers. So I think this, the market has got very frothy. So I think there is a chance it could run out of steam a little bit, and we could see that pullback. But I would be surprised if it pulled back, much beyond. Well, let's say I'd say 35K as an absolute minimum. Okay. But I'm fully prepared to be wrong on that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. There's been a lot of, like you said, there's been a lot of estimates, analysis around what these ETFs could do to price. And most of that analysis was around what would happen around the flows coming into ETFs in the weeks and months after they had listed, right? So that itself will take some time. Like there's many things. For one, now that they can trade, okay, sure, there's been a lot of volume, but the kind of institutional investors that were wanting to invest in Bitcoin, it takes some time for them to prepare for it. They need to go to their investment committees. They need to get the documents in place. They need to adjust their asset allocations. They need to get it signed off. That will take at least a month or so before all the real big institutional or asset managers, wealth managers will want to start investing in Bitcoin. So that's going to take some time. And then also, if you think about it from the component of the retail side, right? Like, I know we all in crypto have been so fixated on this ETF launch. It's like been the most important thing for us since whenever. Yeah. But I don't know if you've spoken to people who don't follow crypto at all, but I don't think it's that impressing to them. They haven't seen too much about it. Like, obviously, it's been some news headlines, but it's not like as massive the news as all else. Which means, therefore, that it will take some time. Maybe once every 6 months, they meet with their financial advisors, and their financial advisors say, "Hey, you guys know you can now invest in Bitcoin through your IRA, through your trading account." And then they'll actually start considering, "Oh, I want to start thinking about diversifying my portfolio. Maybe I should look into Bitcoin." So I don't think it's going to take some time. And most of the analysis has been over 6 months, you will have gradual flows coming in. So right now, there is some profit taking going on because everyone was fixated on the launch. There was a lot of people who were playing the ETF trade, both in the spot and futures market. And now it's going to take some time to see whether the flows will come in. I mean, Standard Charters come out with an estimate that in about 3 months, we could see 1 billion of flows into ETFs. It will be interesting to see. I think that it will be able to tell us whether it validates or invalidates the analysis that's been done around the questions around price reaching all-time highs, in the next 6 months or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you reckon we could pull back from here?
I think we could. I think there'll still be some profit taking. I don't think we'll pull back down to 40K. I don't.
Really?
I don't think so. No,
Okay.
I don't think so. I think also you've got to factor into the account that the halving is coming as well. And a lot of people are focusing on that as the next important trade. So I think that, and when the halving gets talked about that much more, now a lot of people have an opportunity to invest in Bitcoin in an alternative way, that they don't have to go through actually buying it on an exchange, simply through their trading account. So
Yeah. Okay. So there we are. Nick reckons probably 40K is a good support zone.
Yeah, support.
I reckon, this being crypto, I think we could go below. But it's difficult to know how to trade this. In fact, it's impossible to know how to trade this. So I, for one, certainly when it comes to Bitcoin, am doing nothing at the moment. I'm just hodling, sitting on my stack.
Don't trade it. Enjoy the moment. Don't go and YOLO in or anything. But
Yeah, not financial advice,
not financial advice.
Okay. Bogdanov Dip has an interesting question.
Very interesting question.
Now, this must be because of your background, Nick.
Yeah.
Is it true that you are controlled and funded by Goldman Sachs?
Yeah, man, it's crazy.
You guys come up with some
really
interesting
But
theories.
mate, I've seen this theory played out a bit. I've seen a lot of comments about it. I've seen, some of the forum posts about it, about this Goldman Sachs banker behind the scenes who's funded and controlling all the strings and everything.
The puppet master.
The puppet master. And I've been trying to find him. I've been looking in the office. I've been looking under the table, in the bathroom, in the closets. I've been trying to find this banker. I mean, have you seen a banker around here, hiding away anywhere? Or?
No, I mean, obviously, this is just a smokescreen, and Lloyd Blankfein is there.
The vampire squid is right there in the other office. Zara, have you seen any bankers around here? Just checking. Just checking.
Obviously, after this is finished, we'll go into the office and receive our orders from the Goldman Sachs head office. Yeah, we'll do what we're told.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that if Goldman Sachs was sort of controlling and funding us, they probably wouldn't be very happy, seeing as we've been fairly critical of them and talking
bankers and everything, as well as the WEF.
Yeah.
I mean, the WEF would be like, "What are you doing? We give you the opportunity to fund and be the mouthpiece of a crypto YouTube channel, and they're over here talking about the Great Reset and stuff."
So we're absolutely right. Nick, being ex Goldman Sachs, is still in touch with his old paymasters, who are currently our paymasters, and that's
the
whole thing's being controlled from Goldman Sachs HQ.
Yeah, but I mean,
not very well.
In all seriousness, I think that probably we'll have to address it for the 10th time. I mean, obviously, you can check out, if you want to know my background, you can check out a video I did about a year ago with Guy, where we talked about what I did in the past. And 8 years ago, I used to work in TradFi, didn't enjoy the traditional financial system, wanted to be in a startup, and wanted to be in a more transformative technology. Go into a startup, and then, I fell on the crypto rabbit hole. And then started Coin Bureau, completely self-funded and bootstrapped, not a single outside external investor or any VCs to that effect, to remain completely independent. And so that's unfortunately the truth, guys. And it's not as crazy and conspiratorial and exciting as the secret banker behind the scenes, but
that would be a lot more fun.
That would be a lot more fun.
What Nick fails to mention also is that he was fired from Goldman Sachs because he kept turning up in shorts and flip flops.
Yeah, exactly. I was projecting in my mind where I wanted to be, and I just thought I wasn't on a beach in Dubai.
So he decided he'd start his own company where he could dress however the hell he liked.
Yeah, where I can determine the dress code. Speaking of which, this is a bit too formal, guy.
Yeah, I have gone quite formal today. Well,
what's with the collar?
You've got trousers on today rather than shorts. That's quite rare. Nick usually looks like he's on his way to the beach.
Well, it's winter in Dubai. I need to try and make the most of it.
Yeah. for the winter for the next sort of 24 hours. Okay, let's move on. Oh, is it your turn
my
to
question.
ask a question?
So it's Jose Kuhler 93 asks, hey, what do you guys think about Rio and NXRA? So they're RWA tokens. And Rio is one that you actually talked to. The Relio network is one you did for the first post on CoinBureau Club.
Yeah, so CoinBureau Club, which is our altcoin subscription service portal, that was one of the projects that I talked about in the research feed, and as an interesting one because I was interested in the real world asset narrative. I'd seen sort of Realio kind of talked about here and there, and I flagged it up as a potential one to watch. And actually, we ended up covering it. The subscribers voted on it, and we covered it in one of our earlier videos. Interesting project. Nick initially dunked on it.
I did,
and said it had all the hallmarks of a zombie project,
Yeah.
Which we found to be untrue. I think our review sort of debunked that.
It was a fair move. And some people actually, there was a good return that they made on it, you said.
I think so. I think some CoinBureau Club members did pretty well out of it. I didn't actually buy any Rio in the end. NXRA, I have heard of that, and I have looked into that a little bit, and that looks a pretty interesting project. I mean, in general, the RWA narrative is I think one to watch. Yeah. We've seen so much speculation and so much, I think, often coming from TradFi, saying that the tokenization of real world assets is, potentially trillions of dollars we're talking about here. Now, that obviously presents a huge potential opportunity. But talking to Dan about it, our head of research, he is a lot less bullish on that sector, and I think he makes some good points. It's like I think a lot of people imagine that the tokenization of real world assets would see these things created on, the layer ones that we're all familiar with, your Ethereums, your Avalanches, your Cardanas, whatever, which would, in theory, pump our bags. But as Dan has pointed out, and I tend to agree with him, if we are going to see real world assets tokenized, they are most likely going to be, by TradFi entities at any rate, they're most likely going to be done on private and permission versions of those blockchains.
Yeah.
Which mean, and there are quite a few. I think JP Morgan uses a permission version of Ethereum. Doesn't it?
They use Onyx platform. It's Onyx platform for issuing real world assets. It's actually, they got into a partnership, or they've started utilizing Avalanche subnets.
Oh, really?
So that's another reason I'm kind of bullish on Avalanche, is because Avalanche, is part of the use for subnets, will be this real world asset tokenization in partnership with JP Morgan's Onyx platform.
Right.
They've just done a proof of test case that's done with the Ministry of Finance in Singapore last year for access to tokenized funds with Wisdom Tree. So that's on the public blockchain networks. One of them could potentially benefit from RWA narrative is Avalanche. But he does make a good point in the sense that these particular projects, right, I don't necessarily think that TradFi is going to come to a Relio network, or, because they've got their own platforms, right? They want to issue on their own platforms. And it's also the question around the RWA narrative more particularly, is what sort of assets are going to be, is there a dire need for tokenization of? Definitely in very liquid markets, treasuries, bonds, equities, potentially commodities, right? And that's all stuff that TradFi services in some degree, right?
Yeah.
So instead of issuing a bond with paper and and registering it with the registry, they'll just use a blockchain. It's much simpler and more efficient, but they'll probably use their own, right? But then there's the question also around other assets. People say, oh, you could tokenize, property, for instance, right? I don't necessarily think people are going to want to own a 100th of a tokenized house or something. They're going to want to control their own property, right? And I think that's the same argument in the RWA space that Arthur Hayes has made about 3 weeks ago, where he basically dunked on the narrative as well, in the sense that very liquid markets for traditional financial securities will have a need for tokenized. But when it comes to property and the more retail kind of assets, there's not really a demand for it there.
It's a nice idea. Like, part of me thinks, yeah, I can imagine. I can sort of imagine, like, you know, if you have a property that's you know, a rental property that's generating a yield, I can imagine that there might be demand from investors looking to diversify a portfolio, you know, to maybe own a chunk of that and get a chunk of that yield, and to be able to do. And obviously, you know, tokenization would, in theory, make that quite easy. Because, I mean, there is, you know, certainly in the UK, you know, we have sort of shared ownership schemes and things like that. But obviously you would have to get, you know, buying a property, I don't know about anywhere else, but buying a property in the UK is not a simple or straightforward process. Yeah. So in theory, if it could be tokenized and made easy, then I can see there being potentially an appetite for that. But on the other hand, I sort of agree with you in a way.
REITs exist, so real estate investment trusts, they exist.
That's
so it's
true.
an opportunity for people to get access to a broad range of you know, property investments, and you know, which is diversified. So it's not one particular property with one particular nuance, with all these particular nuances for that particular property, but it gives you a broad swath of, like, you know, properties you can invest in, you can get returns and yields on it. So yeah, whether there's the need for tokenizing all assets on the blockchain, don't think so. Very liquid markets that traditional financial institutions already service, there is a need. And then I think that, but then you need to try and focus on which kind of blockchains are going to be benefiting from that. And like I've said, I think Avalanche is one of them. Potentially Ethereum, with these traditional financial institutions, are building their networks on top of the Ethereum network. But yeah, I think the RWA, it's an exciting narrative. But remember, it's very, very similar to the security token narrative of the 2017 bull market. Yes. Remember?
Yeah.
And there were a lot of security token platforms. There was T0, there was Polymath, and you know, I think T0 shut down like 2-3 years ago. It was a platform to trade tokenized assets, and Polymath, I think they gone. Well, I think they're still there, but like, you know, there's not much going on there.
Yeah, not much happening.
So yeah, I think that it's exciting. It's an exciting narrative. But whether it will play out, it remains to be seen.
Yeah, and I guess the big question then is, you know, if you wanted to try and trade that narrative, if you wanted to have, you know, buy into that narrative, do you buy specific RWA tokens, you know, like Rio or like NXRA? Or do you sort of target the layer ones? You've been talking about Avalanche. I should mention as well that Nick holds
of course. Sorry,
AVAX.
I should mention. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to GameFi, isn't it? Do you buy a specific project, which obviously has more potential upside, or do you sort of play it safer and go for the underlying layer one?
Yeah, well, of course, you know, you're going to make more returns if you hit it right on a project that's going to rally raw, because they got a lower market cap, right? So if you're targeting specific projects or specific GameFi projects, they got a lower market cap. So, you know, the beta to the narrative, if you're talking financial terms, is going to be a lot higher. But, you know, that is going to be hit or miss. Whereas if you bullish on a narrative more broadly and you don't want to dive into each and every single particular project, then you can try and make a trade on the entire narrative through a layer one or platform that does the issuance of like a layer two, like Immutable in the GameFi space. Or, you know.
Yeah. I haven't personally decided whether RWAs is a narrative I'm going to sort of pursue in this bull run, but I am going to look again at NXRA, because I think that does look interesting. But like I say, I'm not sure. Yeah. RWAs is kind of 50-50 at the moment. Sorry to interrupt you folks, but I have to let you know about the Coin Bureau deals page. Now, my team and I have been able to pull together some of the best promos and discounts in the crypto space. We're talking trading fee discounts of over 50%. Thousands of dollars in bonus airdrops, amazing deals at top exchanges, reduced prices on hardware wallets, and much, much more besides. So just go to coinbureau.com/deals, also linked to below, and find the promo suited to you. Enjoy the rest of the video. Okay, DG Mackin asks, this is a great question.
Yeah.
Why has SBF's second trial dismissal not been mentioned once with all this ETF noise? That's a very good question. We should have talked about this more.
I mean, I think that some would say that was by design, right?
Yeah.
It's so unfortunate. Like, it happened, so they released the news, right, on the Friday before the New Year's, right, late at night. In the hope that all the other news that was taking place, from the New Year's celebrations to war to the Bitcoin narrative, the Bitcoin ETF narrative, would just drown it out. And it seems to have happened, right? And it's really unfortunate because, look, their argument for it was, look, okay, it's in the public interest to get some quick resolution to the case, to the SBF case. And this is true. The guy's going to be going away for a long time. Like, he's probably going to potentially get life or very close to it. But the problem is that the second trial was focused on a lot of the campaign finance violations, the bribery allegations, and this involves a lot of other people, right? And this was, there's no ways that the FTX saga could have gotten to what it did without the help of other people potentially. Either turn in a blind eye in the case of those people who got campaign finance donations, or in the case of those literally working with him to, in terms of bribery. So there is a feeling that, that it's just been swept under the rug. And a lot of these other people, especially the politicians, right, it's like, is there going to be accountability for it? And I think that now that they've obviously dismissed the cases, then probably not.
Yeah. And I remember seeing that story on New Year's Eve or just the day before. And my initial reaction was sort of like, oh, well, what's the point in going after him further? He's already probably... And then sort of thinking about it more, it was like, no, actually, we should have, I guess we should have covered it more, because the more I sort of thought about it. And then I think both Castle Island Ventures and Bankless have been sort of talking about this in sort of recent episodes. And I think, as both pointed out, this is actually scandalous, because the politicians who he funded, who SBF funded, are, going to get away with it. Yeah. His mum, who was deep into this, and I'm not saying she's necessarily committed any crime, but there are certainly questions to answer. Sam Trabucco, I think his name comes up in this.
He's off on his boat, enjoying the sunset.
Where is Sam Trabucco? This is one of the big questions.
Where in the world is Sam Trabucco?
Where is Sam Trabucco?
He could, for all we know, he could be on a yacht.
He could be floating out there in the marina somewhere.
Smiling at us. But back to the parents, the mother was a big, big Democratic donor, and then
that was her whole thing, wasn't it? Campaign finance. That's her whole thing.
And his father was in the WhatsApp, in the secret signal groups. He was on all these emails. Like, he was involved. Like, I don't, innocence until proven guilty. But if he was so close to the coalface of what went down there, I don't know. And remember that they got, I don't know how much, they got a free house, they got 20. How do you think Sam's been funding his legal bills? Yeah.
Still a lot of questions to be answered, and very cynical move, smart move really, because it worked. Releasing the news when sort of no one was really paying attention. So whether or not we'll ever get answers to those questions is unclear, but it's looking less and less likely. By the way, I've been listening to Michael Lewis's book, Going Infinite.
Oh, really? And how are you managing to go?
It just makes me...
Why would you torture yourself?
Well, it's the sort of thing, like, I sort of felt that I should listen to it and draw my own conclusions. I personally, there was a lot of talk about how he'd given SBF an easy ride and was kind of a bit sort of seemingly starstruck by him. There is an element of that, but I don't think that's quite as pronounced as has been made out. I think he's been perhaps a little more objective than maybe he's given credit, or a little more just sort of, removed from it. So I don't necessarily think he was completely starstruck by SBF. SBF, he just comes across as even more sort of irritating than I don't know.
I don't know how that's possible.
It certainly. I'm on the last chapter. It doesn't make me. It hasn't made me any more sympathetic to SBF in any way. If anything, it's made me despise him even more. So yeah. I mean, Michael Lewis is a good writer. Like I'm going to say that. Like he's a good writer, and he's written some great books in the past. And I think Going Infinite probably is worth a read if you want to sort of delve in. Mind you, he doesn't go into huge detail about it's weird because, suddenly everything's fine and then suddenly FTX collapses.
That's just what I'm quite wondering. How long was he embedded at the SBF inner circle? And how could you not, I'm just curious, how can you not see something's going on here? I mean... Well,
yeah, that is a good question. He sort of skirts all around that. And that was one of the things I felt sort of unsatisfied about the book about, it didn't sort of shed any light on what happened. I don't feel like any sort of burning questions that I had have been answered. But anyhow, worth a read.
Yeah. On to the next question. This is a bit of a hot potato in light of recent events.
Yes, okay.
So, Aviator Guarav asks, ADA price prediction and utility.
ADA price prediction and utility. Yeah. Okay, good old price prediction. Yeah, so was it last week we put out a Cardano update, which got a few comments.
It got a bit of comments. Yeah, got a few comments.
The Cardano community
it ruffled a few feathers.
Yes, I think that's fair to say. Ruffled a few people's feathers. I thought that it was a very fair review, and a few people had some issues with it, but fine. No project is perfect. Cardano is not perfect, but as we pointed out in the video, it is doing a lot of good things, and it does still have a lot of potential. And there are plenty of people out there who will say the exact opposite. Anyhow, so that was the reaction from the Cardano community. But as to Aviator Gorav's question, ADA price prediction and utility. Okay, well, I mean, utility is fairly straightforward, staking, transaction fees, etc. I must say, I think what they've done with staking pools and Hydra, I think that's a really smart way of doing it. This is something that we covered in the video, but part of the Hydra, staking pools are able to use Hydra to increase transaction throughput. Yeah. And I mean, that gives Cardano a theoretical TPS of something like 3 million a second. So, there's, like I say, there is some great innovation going on there. As to price prediction, ADA sort of topped out just over $3, I think, the previous during the last bull market. If this bull market coming up is anything like what people are saying it could be, as in inflows, absolutely gangbusters, then ADA could blast through its all-time high fairly easily, I think. Yeah. Remember, there will be a lot of people, and I say this with every coin and token from the last cycle, there are going to be a lot of people who bought around that level, or who bought around $2 or what have you. So I think there will be a lot of sell pressure on the way up, but I think it can go past the all-time high. I don't want to say an actual price because I don't know. Yeah. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I think it can, for sure. I do note, of course, that it's compared to some of the other tokens in the top 10, it's got a large outstanding supply. So that's a lot harder to push a coin with such a large outstanding supply, up compared to the others. But it can easily reach its previous all-time high in a bull market. It's got a dedicated fan base, and that's important because your point around, will they sell necessarily when it reaches the all-time high, and they can recoup some of their profits? Potentially. But then again, I think that as a community, to their credit, they stick together and they have the same vision in terms of like what they want to see of Cardano. The issues we raised were, I think fair, but it's something that philosophically they've got the right philosophy. They've got a good philosophy around this peer-reviewed, scientific, very theoretical approach. Now, of course, is that the right approach? People can agree or disagree, but it's not. It's a noble approach. So I think that it can definitely reach its previous all-time high in this bull market, and I think that the Cardano community that's respectfully engaged with us, like one or two of them hopped in the server and chatted with you. I mean, that's cool. Feedback's great. It's even if it is a bit,
even if it is sometimes a little forthright.
And
the Cardano community itself, like you mentioned, that is one of Cardano's and ADA's great strengths. So, could see great things. All right, next question is from Lasinotten. Do you believe TIA will 20x in the next 2 years? Celestia. Do you hold some TIA?
I don't hold Celestia, but I've been looking into it the past few weeks, and it's a really exciting project. You guys should go out there and watch the Bankless podcast with the two founders. It's really an interesting project. So I'll state, like, for one thing, I mean, the concept of modular blockchains, right? So people can allow them to build their own blockchains on top of Celestia, sort of roll up as a service is crazy. It's also creating this data availability sampling, this unique approach where it will make it a lot easier for other, roll-ups and blockchains to use light nodes to sample the data without having to build up an entire network and run these full nodes, which is, it takes a lot of data and storage. So it's a really exciting project, and I've talked about it we've covered it quite a lot in terms of the research feed and the server Discord chats, and we have actually allowed the CBC members were the tiebreaker votes for what altcoin we're going to cover next week, and they eked out the Avalanche community in the server. So we'll be doing a main channel review on Celestia next week, so keep your eyes peeled for that. That's exciting. I'm looking forward to that. But more to the question, do I believe TIA will 20x in the next 2 years? I don't think so. And that's mainly comes down to tokenomics, right? To consider the fact that right now it's got about a $2.5 billion market cap with about 267 million tokens circulating, right? In October this year, they got a massive cliff unlock of about nearly close to 200 million tokens, right? So that's going to be coming onto the market, right? And then in 2 years' time, by January 2026, there'll be about total outstanding supply of about 800 million that's been vested out.
Right.
So you've got a lot of this outstanding supply coming onto the market. So in order to 20x, it needs to be like a $50 billion market cap, which is slightly above Binance chain right now. So you need so much buying pressure to be able to pull it up there in terms of the market cap, and then also you've got this supply coming onto the market as well.
Yeah.
So you've got these two forces, and I just think that it was pretty hard to see it 20x in the next 2 years, just because of the tokenomics of the project. But that doesn't take away from it being a great project, and there's also excitement around projects launching on Celestia for airdrop opportunities. So it's an exciting project, but in terms of price for TIA, 20x in the next 2 years, it's quite unlikely.
That does seem, 20x does seem quite ambitious. I mean, no max supply, which is, it's extraordinary though, isn't it? Because we have been saying this, talking about this for a while. A few months ago, or early last year even, when people were saying, what are you looking at? What are going to be the big winners of the next bull run? And we were saying, like, projects that don't necessarily exist yet, that haven't been released, and Celestia is a great example of that. Kind of came out of nowhere. Obviously, there was that airdrop. It's now the 42nd biggest by market cap.
And it was one of the biggest airdrops of last year, right?
Yeah, absolutely crazy. So, I mean, anything can happen, but I agree with you. I think 20x is perhaps a little ambitious, but nevertheless, it is a great project. Okay, what's next?
Next question is from Carnivorous Plants Garden. They ask quite a few questions, actually. It's a fan account for carnivorous plants.
Right.
So you need to check it out. I follow them.
Okay.
Cool. So they ask, are you bullish on some Solana Killer?
Yeah. So we recently, the Solana Killer I'm sort of most familiar with at the moment is SEI, because we covered that on the Coin Bureau Club recently. And SEI has been going absolutely crazy recently. So that seems, I mean, I wasn't tempted to invest myself. I kind of felt that I'd missed the pump, and then it duly pumped a whole load more. So what do I know?
Yeah.
But SEI certainly seemed interesting, and I guess the other big two are Aptos and SUI.
Yeah.
We covered Aptos shortly after it was released. Wasn't a big fan. We covered SUI shortly after it was released. I think we were a bit more keen on SUI.
Yeah.
But I mean, Anatoly Yakovenko, the founder of Solana, has said that he's quite sort of intimidated by Aptos because apparently it is very easy to build on.
This is both SUI and Aptos are very easy to build on.
Right.
So that's interesting. So yeah, I mean, SUI has been, if you've seen how SUI's done over the past 2 days, it's gone absolutely mental. And I also kind of feel bad I missed that one because I asked Kevin, one of our researchers, like, what's up with SUI? Why do you hold so much SUI in your portfolio? I'm keen to learn about it because the TVL on SUI is like, its market cap is way lower than SEI, but its TVL is much higher. Right. And that is a factor of that it's a lot easier to build on SUI because the programming language Move is a lot easier for developers to use. And then they've also got this kind of like Quest system, kind of like where, developers, they're given a lot of grants to develop, not like grants, but like, incentives for developers to come and build on SUI. And whereas SEI is like a built on Cosmos SDK, SUI uses the Ex Libra technology, right?
Yeah.
A completely new consensus.
As does Aptos. I mean,
they're both similar in terms of the underlying tech. Very fast, high, like 480 milliseconds to total time to finality in terms of SUI, which is slightly fast, just a bit faster than SEI. But they're both very highly performant in terms of their tech. It's just that it's easier to build on SUI, I think, which is important if you're trying to onboard developers, right?
Yeah. Well, especially when you consider that, I mean, one of crypto's big issues over the last few years has been a lack of developers, a lack of developer talent. So I think any blockchain that is easy to build on, that's probably going to be a huge plus because developers are hard, crypto developers, blockchain developers are hard to come by.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, projects like Ethereum have swallowed up a huge amount of them. If I remember rightly from the SEI review, though, I think SEI is theoretically the fastest now because there's a couple of tweaks to its technology that allow it to go, I think, in theory, faster than Solana.
I mean, are we talking? I mean, from my notes, it was like 500 milliseconds TTF with SEI, and then 480, with SUI. But I mean, we're talking like
who's counting?
Who's counting?
Those milliseconds.
Well, developers obviously mine is 480.
It's just it's just a contest
20
between
milliseconds
developers.
shorter than yours. And also Miston Labs, which is the one behind SUI, they've raised up to 300 million previously in a massive fundraise last year. So obviously that's going to help to help bootstrap the ecosystem.
I think I heard the phrase "they are throwing money around."
They are. They were one of the biggest sponsors at Token 2049 last year.
Yeah. So I mean, it may sound a bit weird given how Solana's been performing recently, but the Solana Killers narrative is definitely a thing. The same way the Ethereum Killers narrative was a thing in the last cycle. So I think it's definitely one to keep an eye on. So do check out, there are main channel reviews of Aptos and SUI, like I said, from last year sometime. And then Coin Bureau Club if you want to learn all about SEI as well. And I mean, I'm sure there must be other Solana killers coming through.
There are. And then there's also a lot of the other layer ones from the previous cycle that people are talking about again. I've seen ICP banded about before again.
ICP's been doing well. Dan
from the grain.
Dan, I think, has a bag of ICP.
Exactly. I'm surprised by that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyhow, okay, VEE asks, what happened to Coin Bureau trading? Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, that's so if you guys don't know, we obviously have a trading channel called Coin Bureau Trading. It's just got just over 27K subscribers. And if you had been following that, you'll have seen Dan. And unfortunately, Dan is no longer with us. And by that, he's totally cool. Don't worry.
He's still alive.
He's still alive.
And not to be confused with head of research
not Dan. Dan Chang. Yeah. Champ. He's still he's still alive. He's still cool. We're great. We're big friends with him. We're a big friend of the channel. It's just that he wanted to pursue. He was doing really well with his FX trading and business, and he wanted to pursue that. And he helped us a lot to get to where we were with 27K subs. But we thought it was better. It was a natural split. He could go and pursue his FX venture. And what that means for us is there is an extra seat available on Coin Bureau Trading, which means that if there is anyone out there who is a good trader with a verifiable track record and who's comfortable being on camera, speaks well, and most importantly, can work as hard as all of us, then we'd love to hear from you. And you could potentially be the new face of Coin Bureau Trading. So what I'll do is I'll link in the description a form where you can fill out and submit your information. And if you can, and if you have the material required, then we'd be keen to hear from you.
Yeah. For the right person, that is an amazing opportunity. Like Nick said, someone hungry, hardworking,
daily reviews,
great trader,
daily analysis, charts.
Full-time thing, but like I say, for the right person, that is great. So looking forward to hearing from you if you're out there.
Cool. Next question is from Rob Threepwood, and he asks, are you investing in anything but crypto?
That's a good question, and I guess I guess the answer should be yes, but in fact it's no. I mean, investing suggests sort of active, not at the moment. I do have some investments back in the UK. I mean, when I left the UK, I had to sell out of my ISA and things like that, which was annoying. So I did have some stocks, which I don't have anymore. But I mean, I do have some real estate, but I'm not actually planning on investing in anything else at the moment. I'm still sort of a little bit unsure what the investing landscape is out here in the UAE. Like, I know it's possible to get into stocks and things like that. I know there are stock trading platforms. To be honest, like, crypto takes up so much of my time and mental bandwidth that I just don't really think I've got the time to sort of go digging into what stocks I should invest in and things like that. For some reason, I've never been a big fan of investing in US stocks, partly because a lot of them don't really give much in the way of dividends, and I do like passive income. So it's all crypto for me. I'm pleased to say. What about you?
I mean, up until recently, everything was like in crypto. I feel like what Warren Buffett would be, the whole idea or concept of diversification didn't exist with me. Like, the entire company, my career, all my holdings and everything was in crypto. So, I think, well, it's true. If you want to take concentrated bets, and the thing is, like, I mean, I do crypto day and night, right? So I'm more likely to know about what's going on in the crypto markets and what's a good coin to invest in than I would to go and do the DD and deep research on like a stock or necessarily the property market or anything like that. And when I did decide to diversify back some time back, I decided to diversify into something, a market which I knew completely nothing about, which is the art market. And I got burned really badly. So that was kind of like, don't dabble in stuff that you don't know too much about. Because, the specialists will beat you out. But having said all that, I did tell myself that the New Year's resolution, I need to have a little bit of diversification. And given that I'm in Dubai now for the foreseeable future, I have actually diversified into a bit of Dubai property.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
interesting.
I mean, that is a market that is crazy now. Now, in terms of real estate markets, it was the best performer in the past 2 years. Like, we're talking like, if you like properties like this, like just across the way, you can see there Dubai Harbour. They go and open the project at they opened the project like 1 or 2 years ago. It's already trading at like 2.5x.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, the Dubai property market is super hot, and I thought, look, it'd be a good opportunity to have some, because I haven't invested in property before, and I was like, well, now's the opportunity. Dubai itself is growing a lot. It's an amazing place, and the population flows are coming in. So I thought, look, I mean, have some diversification. And yeah, it was tough for me to sell some of my crypto, to actually invest in it. But
that's why the market dipped. Nick was selling.
The whales are, the whales are liquidating. But it was tough because you kind of see now I've lost on potential gains and all that. But I think that at the end of the day, it is that comfortable feeling knowing you got a good place to stay. And Dubai is a great city, and I'll be here for the foreseeable future. So that's my little bit of diversification what I've invested in so far.
Bricks and mortar, mate.
Yeah.
Bricks and mortar. Lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, good for. Well, I look forward to the housewarming.
Yeah, the housewarming soon. Yeah, well, it's off plan, so
Okay, so might be a while.
it might be a while, but
That's crazy. It's not one of those ones with like swimming pools on the balconies that they're building out there, is it? There's a building.
not there. No. It's in Business Bay. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, Business Bay. Got a nice view of the Burj, so that's cool. Yeah, brand new development.
Moving downtown.
Yeah.
Downtown and upmarket. Let's move on to Agustin Hosera, who asks, how does PYTH's innovative data oracle contribute to accurate pricing in the crypto space? Very good question.
Very good one.
Do you want to take it?
Yeah, sure. So basically just got a caveat that we both hold PYTH, and we've done a review for it on the Coin Bureau Club, right?
Yep.
And it was quite a glowing review in the sense that it's a really exciting project. Of course, unfortunately, the price hasn't performed as well in the past month.
No.
I think that's just as a result of a lot of people selling out of the airdrop, right?
Yeah.
But more to the question around how it does this, I think that the few factors to focus on here are frequency, latency, and accuracy. So in terms of frequency, PYTH's network basically updates prices every 400 milliseconds, right? So you get in the most accurate price close to the tick price, which is important for any sort of DeFi dApps, because you want to make sure that the price is closest to what it is most recently, right? Yeah. So that's important. Latency, the PYTH network is extremely fast. It's a completely new network, and that means that the price data is getting to the dApps much more quickly and propagated out to the network much more quickly, right? So you're making sure that the prices that your dApp is using are the closest to the correct price as well. Yeah. And then, of course, accuracy. You've obviously getting data from a lot of different data providers, right? And the price itself at each of these data providers could be different, right? In terms of other Oracle providers like Chainlink, what they did was like use a median. So like even if you've got a wide, diverse price ranges, they try and find a median and they say this is the price. Whereas with PYTH, they kind of like use a confidence interval situation. So essentially, if you get in the price feeds, the PYTH network will tell you how wide the prices are, so it gives you some sort of an idea of the confidence interval. So you can build that and bake that into your calculations and see how reliable this particular price is. So those are some of the main factors that makes it, providing the accurate pricing with DeFi dApps. It's obviously compared to other Oracle networks, the pricing is coming straight from the data providers as opposed to the node operators who will try and pull the data from different places. So you're getting it from some of these TradeFi providers are very like Jump Trading, Jane Street, Two Sigma, and a few others. So it's basically coming straight from these highly, HFT firms, which obviously get the prices first to the market, right?
Yeah, and of course Jump actually, is behind PYTH.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they, that's why it's such a, everyone's so bullish on it from a tech perspective. Obviously, there are questions around still they need to determine what sort of utility the PYTH token is going to have within that network. Is it going to be used to pay fees for the data providers? Because that hasn't been updated in the docs yet, I believe. So there's questions as to that, because it's fine if it's just the governance token that hasn't just been used for governance when a lot of it's built by TradFi, right? It needs more than that.
Yeah.
It needs more than that. So yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, PYTH, we saw a lot of potential in that, like good backers, and as Nick said, this the speed in particular is so important, isn't it? Like and that's why it runs on Solana. Although one of the things we were speculating on in that review is that it could migrate to a faster blockchain if it comes along. So I mean, it could, in theory, migrate to a Solana killer like Aptos or SUI or SEI.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is something to watch out for again in the Solana Killers narrative. Perhaps the big one, a big thing to watch will be, are projects moving to other blockchains in order to get faster, that higher TPS. So that's something to watch with PYTH. But very interesting project, lots of potential, but still a lot of work to do to get it where it needs to be. Okay, final
question. So this is from Nikolai Petrov, 17. So Borat hacking SEC X account. So BTC ETF approved. Not.
Well, I mean, that was crazy, wasn't it? That was such a crypto thing to happen. There seems to be an intern who's just bouncing between all these various entities and messing with everyone's heads. But yeah,
only in crypto can this happen.
Yeah.
Only in crypto. At first, when I woke up and I saw my phone, it had all the stacked messages because I was asleep, obviously, when this happened. And at first, I thought I was dreaming. I was like, did the SEC account really get hacked? Announced.
Yeah.
And then
there were so many questions over it as well, because then people were pointing out that if it was hacked, then they managed to get control over it very quickly.
Very quickly. And also that the tweet that was pushed looked very similar to an announcement tweet, right?
Yeah.
So they questioned, was this basically a saved draft that they pushed out? Or was this accidentally a Twitter intern fat finger that pushed it out accidentally beforehand?
Yeah. But then there was also the fact that, because I was listening to Eric Balkunas on Bankless just this morning, and he said that, when he originally saw it, he believed it. But then, it's one of those things you take a closer look at. It's a bit like when you have to take a closer look at these scam texts and things. Yeah. That's when you realize. But because they used the tweet used the hashtag Bitcoin, and then you had the symbol.
No, I think they first tweeted out just BTC, and then they deleted the tweet very quickly.
Yeah.
Then
and then it was the announcement, but with hashtag Bitcoin. And as people subsequently pointed out, there's no way the SEC would use the hashtag Bitcoin. But it's just the whatever. I'd love to know what happened. I'd love to know who was responsible.
Apparently
why
they didn't enable two-factor authentication.
And I think, didn't someone flag up somewhere on the SEC's website? It tells people.
There was a tweet that's and also be careful what you read online.
Yes.
Don't believe what you read.
The SEC should just
protecting us.
Stop playing.
The SEC protecting us. Investor protection is key for them, right? So much so that they can't even protect their own Twitter account.
The SEC it's like L after L for those guys. They really need to just take a time out and go and take a long hard look at themselves.
Yeah.
But a very crypto thing to happen at a time like that, just before the ETFs. That is, of course, one of the many reasons why we're in this wonderful industry, this incredible game, because there really is, there's always something going on, always some crazy stuff going on.
But for all the slack, before all the flack the SEC gets and how much hate Gary gets from the crypto community, he was the tiebreaker vote for the ETF.
Yeah.
So. Celebrate your little ones.
Yeah, mind you, I said this on NFA last night. If they'd voted that down, they would have been just unleashing hell upon themselves.
Yeah.
The dogs of war would have been let slip. Can you imagine having to go up against BlackRock and all these other asset managers in court? Because that's what would have happened. They would have sued, and they probably would have won.
Yeah, exactly.
Hence the fact that it was inevitable. But we've got there. So it's been a great week for cryptos. Nice to close it off with this Q&A. Nick, thanks for joining again.
Always fun, man. Yeah. Do it next week again. Yeah.
Thanks for sending your questions in. Keep them coming. We'll keep answering. It'll be me and Jess, or maybe Nick and Jess next week. So we'll see you then.
Cheers, guys.